We saw how to redirect output inside a script. We saw how to redirect input inside a script. And now we'll see a little bit more complicated version of that. But before we go ahead, I want to revisit script 6, that is lec12-06.sh, where we use the cat command and exec, cat again, and exec again, and then finally another cat. And remember, this cat takes input from the keyboard, the output goes to file 1. This exec says from now on input doesn't come from the keyboard, instead it comes from this file, so that the next time you run cat, the input doesn't come from the keyboard, comes from this file and goes to this file 3. So this is shown pictorially. This is from the book. That first cat command takes input from the keyboard, as cat usually does, and so this is normal cat behavior, I guess. Output goes to file 1 and standard error goes to screen. Exec, what this first exec does is, instead of having the next cat command take input from the keyboard, instead takes input from file 2 and sends the output to standard out, which is redirected to file 3. So basically what everything is just essentially what it does is copy everything from file 2 to file 3. But this is just an illustration. You could have some other command here, some other useful command doing some useful work, taking input from a file and producing some output, which is then put into another file. Alright, that's good. So this second exec, what that does is restore input to be taken from the keyboard. So the third cat command, for the third cat command, input does come from the keyboard again, because we used exec here, the second exec, and standard out goes to file 4. Okay, so keep this picture in mind, because now we're going to have a slightly more complicated use of exec. Okay, so this next shell, you want to keep all those things in mind. This is using output redirection in a script, but now it's using files 3, 4. Remember, you can have up to 10 in a bash script. So what this is going to do is say from now on output for file 3 goes to the first argument to the script. So this script is going to have to be run with some arguments. And then the next exec says output number 4, output for stream number 4 will go to the second argument. And here's where we say, okay, we're going to redirect standard out to go to stream 3, which is going into this first argument. And ls, the output of that will go to stream 4, which is the second argument. So essentially what that does is the output of who will go to the first argument of this script, output of ls will go to the second one. After that, we have two execs that close those 3 and 4 file descriptors, and then prints out echo is done. Prints out the script is done. That should show up right in the command in the shell. So let's cat this out. So these things you might have to try a few times to really get a feel for what it does. Okay, so this is basically the same. I think I changed very few things. I open file descriptors 3 and 4, and the thing is you can use up to 10 and redirect output of these two commands. So this command I should run with 2 arguments. So I'll call it XYZ and ABC. So once I run this, what should happen is this will say, okay, stream 3 will go to XYZ, and so the stream 3, or sorry, file descriptor 3 the standard output of who will go to file descriptor 3, which is XYZ. So the output of who should go to XYZ. Output of ls minus l should go to ABC. All right. And the only thing we see in the command in bash is the very last line. So let's check it. That's cat xyz should be the output of the who command. Sure enough. And we cat abc, and it should be the output of ls minus l. Okay. So try that a few times. It might take a few tries to completely figure out what this program is doing. To help you along with scripts, if you have a long script, you can use some debugging tools. So shell scripts are usually debugged using echo statements, and so that is, you put in insert echo statements in places, and then once you're sure it works, you usually take them out, or you can leave them in if you want to. Usually try to minimize the amount of output a script creates. Another thing that you can do is to use -v at the very top, or -x, and we'll see examples of both of these. The nice thing about -x is that you can turn it off later. Okay. Let's see what we have here. Okay, I'm going to remove a bunch of these things. Remove ABC, file 1, file 3, file 4. I could have done that with a shorter statement, like 12.05 star and XYZ. Okay, let's get rid of that, clean it up. All right, that looks better. And now let's take a look at lec 12 and 11. Okay, so in this script I use the -v option to do some debugging. I want to see what's going on with this, and mainly I want to see, well, what's happened with this. So you can remember what $5 means is the 5th argument to this script. So if I don't type any arguments, it'll just be blank. So it's just like an ls. So let's run this. Lec 12-11. And what it should do is, since I have debugging turned on, a -v or verbose, it should say, okay, I'm going to execute pwd and then show me the output of pwd. Then it'll say I'm executing who am I and show me the output. Then it'll say I'm executing this whole thing and it'll show me the output of just ls, just plain ls. Then it'll also say executing echo. Oops. If I get the name right. Alright. So notice this whole thing is printed out in if you use -v, that's what happens. And it says, okay, I'm executing pwd and here's the output. Who am I prints this, ls $5 prints a list, prints just plain ls. Oops. And then prints out echo done. Here it is. Alright. So that's a nice thing to use. There's also the -x option. That's what I've used here. And also what I've done is I execute 3 commands with x turned on, and then I turn it off. So set +x actually turns off this mode. What this does is it prints out the same thing, the same kind of information, but in this case you won't see the $5. Let's try it out. 12. It'll be slightly different from before, but what you'll see is that I turn off the echoing at this point before the last line. So let's take a look at this. It says plus and then the command that I'm executing, pwd, so it's slightly different from the -v. It says plus who am I, because I have it here, and then plus ls. So it actually sort of interpreted the $5. Since we didn't type in a 5th argument or even a 1st argument, this is just blank, empty string. And then I did a set x, so I don't see the echo. I don't see a plus echo here. Instead, I see this plus set. Of course, the set command is actually echoed out. So we turn off the echo, but that doesn't happen until after we execute this command. And after that, you can see that this echo is not actually printed out. It doesn't say plus echo. Okay, so that is a quick look at some of the debugging tools that you can use with the shell scripts. Mainly the debugging happens using print line statements, or in case of shell scripts, echo statements. So you can use printfs or echo, and then the other two things you can do is -v, -x up at the top. -x is good in that you can turn it off in parts. So you can, if you know your error is at a certain point in your program, just turn on. You say set -x to turn on echoing, and then set +x a few statements later to turn echoing off, so you don't get massive amounts of output from a script. Okay.